Dr. Helen Davis-Frazier has been a Charleston County School Board member for the past 2 years, representing the constituents and students of the rural parts of the district, Hollywood, Ravenel, and more. Now she's asking the constituents to give her 2 more years to tackle issues such as test scores, growth, and much, much more. I talk one-on-one with Dr. Frazier for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Dr. Helen Davis-Frazier, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, for having me again. I'm very delighted to be here. I can remember that we talked briefly prior to my election to the school board,
Sure.
So that I am excited about this upcoming election. I'm in it to win it, and I think that we have made some progress since being on the board for 2 years. I'm looking forward to another 2 years to progress towards some initiatives that I have in place, and one of them, Quintin, is to take a look at teacher pay and, more importantly, teacher retention. And as you already know, that many of our students are not going into the profession. More importantly, many of our teachers who are already in the profession are leaving. And so I am presently serving on a task force where we are looking at the recruitment of teachers and also the retention of those who are presently serving in the system.
Well, let me jump right into it, Dr. Frazier. What is the retention rate right now for District 8 teachers?
Well, across the district, we are losing teachers who are leaving for various reasons. And one of those reasons is pay. Some of the teachers are saying that the climate in which they work needs to be addressed. Some are talking about the behavior of those students who come into the system unprepared. And then others are talking about the lack of parental support and support from the community as a whole.
So when you think of your district, Dr. Frazier, does District 8, what is that percentage of teachers that have actually been retained by the school district?
Quintin, I do not have numbers at the tip of my tongue at this moment, but I can get back with you and we can address the specific numbers.
Now, how many teachers has the district overall lost in the past 2 years since you've been on the board?
Quintin, I can honestly say that I am on the task force. We are looking at those numbers now, and we're coming up with solutions on how to address those numbers that we are losing. I know it is at a critical place with the district, and we are taking a look at including members of this community and the business community in helping us to address those issues dealing with teacher retention and recruitment.
So let me ask you this. Since you're on that task force, Dr. Frazier, should Charleston County School District start hiring experienced teachers from other states?
Well, I don't think that we're limiting ourselves to just hiring teachers from other states. We have thrown out our net to actually recruit teachers to come to South Carolina. The problem is, and you already know, that it is so very difficult to live in an environment where the cost of living is so high. In fact, one of the studies that we have found is that the average teacher would have to make at least $60,000 to offset the cost of housing and all of the other amenities that this county has to offer. We are one of the highest districts in which there is for a person to live and live comfortably. And another phase to that too, Quintin, is that we're not only talking about teachers, but we're talking about other people in the district, our clerical staff, our cook staff. And of course, you know, tell me a school that can make it with our most precious commodities, our students, our staff that make sure that our buildings are clean,
janitors,
right, and our cooking staff.
Yes.
So it's a job that we're all going to have to work towards, and it's not just difficult for our teachers, but it's just difficult to move to Charleston with the high cost of living.
So you've been on the school board for the past 2 years, Dr. Frazier. So how much has the cost of living gone up in your district, District 8, in the past 2 years?
I really, Quintin, I do not have numbers available right now.
Okay.
I know, living in my district, that the influx of persons moving from up north, that the cost of housing has increased tremendously. And I can tell you that when I bought my house 10 years ago, and without calling out numbers,
Sure.
you know, I can say that the cost of a house in my area now, which is District 8,
Right.
has gone up so that it is very difficult for the average person to come in and move into my community.
So how many people have actually moved into that district over the past 2 years?
Quintin, I can't tell you because it's moving so fast.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and I really don't have the statistical data at my fingertips right now. But I'm keeping account of all of the questions that you're asking me. And guess what? We're going to get back to that.
Sure.
Because Quintin Close-Up always asks the most difficult questions. Well, that's good.
Thank you.
It keeps me on my toes.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm alert. I understand that we need to be focusing on the cost of living, not just for our teachers, but for anyone who's living in the area, because people who move here want good schools. And I'm not going to move here and bring my family here unless there is a school where I can place my child knowing that he's going to get a quality education. And that brings me back to one of the issues I want to talk about, Quintin.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is just the disparities in educating our kids. We all know that all of our parents want the best for their children. That means they want good schools, good buildings, good resources.
Sure.
And where I live in a rural area, we have been lagging behind other districts in making sure that our district have the necessary resources comparable to other districts in the area. And my past 2 years, I have been focusing on closing the gaps, making sure that we address the disparities and what is happening in our rural areas when it comes to resources for our students. Many of our students are leaving our district, going to other districts because they feel as if they can get a better education. We want to make sure that we notify those parents that we're working on that issue and that we're going to address that. But it's not just up to a 9-member board. As you know, every last one of our seats are up for re-election. I want everyone to know that with new members coming aboard, I am the best candidate because I have experience in recognizing the needs at the district level. Once you become a candidate for this school, there are so many parts to an industry with a price tag of $1.2 billion. And how do we allocate those resources equitably so that all of our students can succeed at a level so that they can go out into society and choose the career that they want to pursue?
So let me ask you this, Dr. Frazier. Okay, what is the biggest difference when it comes to the achievement gap between minority students and non-minority students in District 8?
In District 8, it's reflected throughout the district. Over 80% of our African American students are not reading at grade level. But what's so scary, Quintin, is that over 50% of students in our entire district cannot read at grade level. Those are the issues that we need to address. Now, I know that some of my constituents are concerned about CRT, gender-related issues, but I want to bring it back to the real issues of how do we educate our kids who are now turning to TikTok, Facebook, and social media to help them to move to a level of society where they can contribute to this country. We have to we have to take a look at how to rebuild our system so that our students are going out and coming back and contributing to their communities that they have left.
Dr. Frazier, let me ask you, how can we go back to the old days, back in the days when we didn't have social media, to get the achievement gap up to where it needs to be right now?
Quintin, we're not going to go back. As one person told me, either we move forward, and what I'm seeing now is that over the next 10 years, our schools will probably be without walls. The traditional school that we see it as now, in my opinion, will no longer exist. We are moving into an area right now where our technology is so advanced that many of our students are going to choose to stay home and learn. The pandemic has really taught us a lesson as to how that can be done, where the learning loss was so tremendous that many of our students now are having to come back to the system and try to catch up. That has also been a challenge for the school district. And I just want to tell the public that if we are now depending on a 9-member board and a superintendent and a staff to make the necessary changes, then we're not going to accomplish our goals. It's going to take not only the schools, not only the 9-member board, but it's going to take our business community, our faith community, that we can connect together, join hands, and look at the problems that we're facing with educating our children and come up with a solution that's going to move the needle forward for our children.
So, with the advanced technology, Dr. Frazier, how does the Charleston County School District deal with that growth, with smart growth?
Well, technology now is the buzzword. I look at some of our smaller students, and wherever you go, you see the little ones, 3 years old, with a piece of equipment in their hands. They can move faster than I can with their fingers. You know, when I grew up, we took trips and we counted trees and we counted grocery stores. Now these kids are just positioned where they're looking at a screen. We're going to even have to change the method in which we teach our children. The school building is going to have to change. Our leadership is going to have to change. And we're going to have to come up with methods that's going to have to challenge our students in a way that all the social media outlets are doing so, by becoming more engaged, by making sure that we light the fire behind these kids to make them want to become energized to learn.
So how do you increase that parent engagement?
Quintin, as you may already know, I came into the Charleston County School District with experience in setting up parenting centers. I was responsible for implementing the first parent center in the state of South Carolina and the United States Army, and brought those skills to the Charleston County School District. At the time, parenting was not an issue. We have now moved on to realize that without parents, the frontline workers, because parenting is the most important piece of the learning curve for our children. So what do we have to do? We have to get parents energized. We have to open our doors and welcome them into our schools. We have to let our parents know that without them, we cannot move forward, without their commitment and without their energy and participation in the school system. More importantly, we have to get the faith-based community involved. We need to get Bishop Green with the 7th Episcopal AME Church involved. All of our lay people should come together, and let's come together and just organize ourselves. Talk about the real issues that are affecting our children and move forward so that when our children leave, they can leave with the career or the college education that they may want to choose. One of the issues now we are facing is that all of our children will not go to college. Some of our children will need to go to what we call take up a trade. Right. And many of them are making decisions right now. I just saw a young lady outside of the building, and I asked her, she's in middle school. She has not yet decided what she's going to do. We have to start early. We have to start as soon as they come into our doors. Early education is important. We have to start putting our emphasis on educating our children at an earlier age and making sure that there is continuity in the system to get them excited about wanting an education.
So what is that learning curve right now in your district?
Well, we are similar to whatever is going on in the district, and that is the pandemic has left all of us behind. And as I said earlier, over 80% of our children are not reading at grade level. And as you know, reading is the basic for us moving forward and giving us the impetus to move ahead with our educational careers. I can remember when I started school at an early age, I saw my dad reading. And what I want us to know, and what I want our parents to know, that you have to invest in your children. You cannot expect teachers, building level principals to educate your child. Learning starts at home. Have some books in the home. Instead of buying many of the toys that our families buy books. Engage your child by reading to them. Let them see you reading. Take them to the library. There are so many ways to spark interest in your child. And so we have to start engaging our parents and the community as a whole so that we can have a society to move this educational system forward, because it's time for me to look at all of the glory and all of the effort that I have put into helping our children succeed.
Well, let me go. Let me go to that, because obviously you have this recently on your fly. You said this: Helen Davis-Frazier is leading the way for our students in schools. How?
Quintin, I have been in the district in education for over 50 years. Just celebrated a birthday, and I'm still making inroads into how do we connect with the generation of children who are so far advanced in technology and music. I am leading the way because I want to be an example, not just for children, but for parents, for the community, to realize that Helen Frazier, the district, none of us can work in isolation, that all of us have to become as one so that we can inspire our children to want to learn.
What have you accomplished with all that in 2 years?
Well, since I've been on the board, I have initially started alarming the district about our test scores. We have not been realizing that our children were lagging prior to the pandemic. The pandemic just brought the emphasis to light to let us know that, my goodness, what happened? Our children are really, really lagging in math and reading. So I was one of the ones who championed the cause and say, let's look at our test scores. And secondly,
yes, ma'am.
I started talking about teacher pay. You can't expect teachers to stay in the profession unless we give them the incentive of pay. Now, teachers want to not only have an increase in pay, but they're talking about safety.
Right.
One of my dissertation topics while I was working on my doctorate was teachers' perception of the safety of their schools. And now with mass shootings and students having access to more weapons, we have to take a look at how we secure our schools, how do we make students and teachers feel safe while we are in the learning environment. So I am on the forefront of listening to our parents. I'm in the community. I try to engage our pastors. I try to get involved with as many committees at the district level as I possibly can. And, you know, if you can remember from our first interview, I talked about the job of being on the school board. And it is. It's a full-time commitment. And it's not just coming to a meeting twice a month and taking a vote on issues. is getting out into the community, listening to the concerns of members of the community, engaging parents, and making sure that children are receiving the education that they deserve across the district.
I got to talk to you about the board. I know the board is proposing to basically delegate the majority of its policy decision to the superintendent. What best practices, Dr. Frazier, can actually come of all of this?
Well, Quintin, sometimes I have to wonder, how do we get misinformation? And that has happened in the school district. It is not the intent of the board to delegate their authority or our authority to the superintendent. Our policies definitely will demonstrate that if people were going to look at our policies. There are policies, administrative policies, and there are policies for the board. And what many people do not realize is that the board is responsible for a few things, and that is developing policy, making sure that we select the right leader for this district, and making sure that we demand accountability from the people that we hire. And right now, that is my focus, to make sure that we are accountable not only to this community, but to our children and families whom we serve at this time.
So what letter grade would people give you?
People have a tendency to judge you based on what they hear from other people. I think my community would give me an A, Quintin, because I deserve an A. Not only am I out there talking about it, I am actually doing the work that's required to make sure that we are in the business of educating children, and not only children, but families. Making sure that we let others know that it is a community effort. With our schools being the hub of the community, we have to bring our community together to realize that together we can make a difference in our future generation. And it's not a project that one can do alone. And I encourage all of my readers, all of my constituents, let's join hands. Let's move forward together to make sure that we are doing what we can to inspire the next generation to be educated, to make sure that we lead this country forward, this democracy forward, and that we are paying attention to all of the new trends that are going on around us.
What are the new trends in your district?
The new trends in my district is that we are concerned about the disparities in building projects, and to make sure that the resources are coming into the district.
Okay.
Our numbers are really looking at how do we educate a diverse population of students, to keep our students from leaving our district and going to a private school or to other districts that are close near, by offering skill trades.
Yeah.
And we need to start looking at our skill trades. If you look at Charleston, I don't think that there is a neighborhood where there is not a new building going up. I can remember going to a program at Baptist Hill High School,
Yes, ma'am.
and there were two students who went up to get their certificate in welding. Well, the other students laughed. And what they didn't know, that these two young men who walked proudly across the building would start with a salary of $40,000 a year.
Wow.
While the average graduate coming out of that building would probably, if not going into a trade school or going into college, would probably be out looking for work.
Okay.
So
let me ask you this: what is the Capital Projects Fund right now?
let me talk about ESSER funding. I think a lot of people are very concerned about ESSER because we have about $250 million for projects for community involvement. And many of our community members have not really become involved in trying to access those funds because, as you know, there was a lot of misinformation coming out because of the Reimagine proposal.
Let me ask you this, okay? With those ESSER funds being dispersed to the school districts, to the districts, area districts, that is, Dr. Frazier, why are there no school proposals for this?
There are school proposals. The problem we're having is that many of our community organizations have not really been educated on how to access those funds. And the requirement is that you have to get with those principals, come up with a project that's going to impact the students who you are going to serve. Wow. I was out on yesterday talking to a young man who works at a church, and they're beginning to work with the children in the Adams Run area, the secretary here.
Right.
And they're talking about raising funds, and I said, have you heard about ESSER? No, ma'am. What is ESSER? So we have to do a better job of advertising, reaching out to community organizations and meeting with those organizations and having them to come in and let's explain to them, how do you access those funds? How do you connect with your area school to make sure that you're working collaboratively to make a difference with the children that you are serving? It's not just a matter of taking the funds and working with children. It's working with the school that serve those children. And I think that there's a job that we have to do in that area.
But let me go back to the Capital Projects Budget Fund. What was that budget fund for this particular year?
We had several $1 million in my district. There were projects that we had on the table to increase some additions to Baptist Hill High School. We have a new wing at the Baptist Hill, and what I'm seeing now is that other schools are getting new schools, and that's what my community is concerned about. Other schools are getting new schools, and we're getting additions, or we're getting small projects. One of the things my district would like to see right now, Quintin, they want a new stadium. And we're not going to stop until we alarm the district that football is the epicenter of my district.
Yes, ma'am.
We love football. We want a stadium. We still have cement seating in our stadium, and we want to make sure that when people come into our stadium that they can sit comfortably and watch the game. So I'm listening to my community, not just my community. I'm listening to all members of the Charleston County School District community so that we can equitably spend those funds to address the disparities in spending.
So those those additions in those small projects, how much of that's all together?
I have not the figures for that. I will get you numbers, and then we will get with you and let you know those numbers.
And let me go back to the test scores, because I want to ask you this. Okay, well, what is the graduation rate right now in West Ashley High School?
Quintin, I don't have that number for you. Those numbers I can get for you.
Okay. But let me ask you this. What percentage of students at Baptist Hill High School scored a C or higher on the Algebra, Biology, or English Gateway course assessments for the end of course, say for the 2017-28 semester?
And again, I do not have specific numbers for you.
Okay.
I will get those numbers and address those issues for you whenever we talk again.
So let me ask you this. What are the average years of teacher experience at Baptist Hill?
Well, that's another issue that we're having at Baptist Hill. Many of our teachers who come into the system now are new teachers. There's a complaint that our teachers are coming in to the system unprepared. And of course, this is a rural area.
Yes.
And it is the perception of the community that our teachers are coming to our area only to have loan forgiveness or to get a good interest rate on a home, all of the above. But we need teachers. There's a teacher shortage. How do we address that? And that is that we have to go beyond just waiting until teachers come to apply. We have to go into our high schools and encourage students to want to come into the teaching profession. We have to go into our colleges and ask our college students, have you considered teaching as a profession? We just have to start early in the recruitment process and also pay attention to the retention of our experienced teachers.
Okay, so how many teachers do you need right now in Charleston County?
I have not looked at that figure. The last time that I looked at that figure, it was lower than the average across the district. I will get with Mr. Brigman and I'll get those numbers back to you.
Okay, let me ask you this, Dr. Frazier, as a suggestion, I should say. How could Charleston County School District raise teacher salaries to raise up to where today's inflation is?
Well, that's the purpose of this committee that I'm presently serving on. And this is why I need the next 2 years. I am engaged with the Teacher Compensation Committee. This committee is composed of lay people in the community, Chamber of Commerce, business people, and we're looking at salaries not only in the state of South Carolina, but throughout the nation, and how those salaries look, what we're now paying teachers, our cost of living, our cost of housing. They're doing a great job out of Mr. Brigman's office in getting the statistics to take a look at all of the parameters in determining what should be a starting salary of our teachers. Right now it's about $43,000. We're taking a look at maybe $58,000 to $60,000. We have teachers, Quintin, who are working part-time jobs just to make ends meet. We have teachers who are working in bars, part-time working in bars. And we're going to have to do a better job of making sure that our teachers are not stressed out about how they're going to make their ends meet when they come to work with our students.
Yet, Dr. Frazier, as you know, going to 75 Calhoun Street, you have dozens of people in there with administrative positions making over $100,000. How do you justify this?
Quintin, I have to let you know that has been a concern of this community. This school community have to rely on paying administrators the kind of salary that's comparable to other districts in order to maintain a current staff of persons who are equipped and educated to run a district of this magnitude. And we're talking about 50,000 kids, 87 schools. Right. We need administrative staff who are going to stay, who are going to work with our schools, who are going to work with this community. And how do you keep staff? You have to pay accordingly. You have to make sure that other local districts are not putting the time and energy that you placed in on these people who are working at the district level.
And the battery, my battery's running a little low, but so how could you all cut those salaries, those administrative salaries?
Well, I don't know whether cutting salaries at the administrative level is the answer to the question that you're asking me. What I do know is that we have to raise our teachers' salaries so that they are at a level comparable to others in the district. Now, the salaries that you're talking about at the district level, there was a study to go out and look at other districts and to take a look at what we're paying other district level folk in schools throughout South Carolina. And that's how they came up with the salary structure.
Okay.
And I know that has been one of the concerns of persons in our community. But I want to ensure them that we have dedicated staff, we have experienced staff, and many of our staff persons at the district level were teachers themselves prior to coming into the district. So we have a sense of continuity in having persons who were already in the trenches, work themselves into an administrative position, and that's how you reward and retain good administrative persons to lead the district forward.
Speaking of the community, you said in the past couple of months that you weren't with the Coalition for Kids, but just a few weeks ago they endorsed you for the school board. When did you accept their endorsement?
We had a conversation, Quintin, on last week. And as you know, I was not endorsed by anyone. Not the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party. I call myself, and someone else called me, the unendorsed candidate. And there's something good about that. When you're not endorsed by any and by the way, this is supposed to be a nonpartisan race, but that is far from the truth, and I found that out. Some point in time, I'd like to see politics taken out of education so that we can concentrate on educating kids. But when the Coalition of Kids asked whether they could help me with my campaign, and we met, I went on their website to take a look at what they wanted to do. I took a look at what they have done, and I thought that there were a lot of misinformation about what the Coalition of Kids are trying to do. We have a lot of naysayers sitting on the sideline doing nothing but complaining. And what I want to tell people is that go on the website, take a look at what they're doing. We're talking about dark money, and I'm saying all money is green. Let's take a look at a group of people, not just the administrators of this organization, but we're talking about a group of people who are trying to get involved to make sure that we are educating all kids. And this is why I said to them wholeheartedly, sure, why don't we work together to make a difference for our children?
Yes, ma'am. Let me ask you, how did you go about coordinating with the Coalition for Kids about what to put on your flyer?
I sit down with them. I gave them information just like I gave you. They have been watching the candidates over a number of years. I don't think that they arbitrarily go out and just ask anyone. I think that they choose people who have a passion for educating children. And I'm just one of those people who've been in the trenches, who've been in the system, who have made the commitment to start working with children so that we can inspire the next generation of children to move forward.
But Dr. Helen, you say you've been in the system for 50 years, but then why would you align yourself with a group that is allegedly trying to privatize public schools?
Well, Quintin, I think that there is misinformation about an organization trying to privatize schools. How can one organization privatize schools? That is not true. Our community has been misled about the information about the Coalition of Kids. And at one time, I thought, because I heard people say, oh, Coalition of Kids trying to privatize schools. That is not what the Coalition for Kids are all about. The Coalition for Kids are out there trying to create a system so that there can be better outcomes for all of our students. Not just some students, but all of our students. So I'm asking you, especially, since you have the ear of an audience, do your research.
I always do my research. But let me ask you this, Stan. So, do you need the Coalition for Kids for a re-election, or do you really need the Coalition for Kids to change the school district?
I need people like Quintin to realize that no one person can change what's happening to our school system. And as I said earlier, not just the Coalition for Kids, we need all organizations. We need business leaders. We need Quintins. We need everyone to sit down and actually, let's come to the table and stop accusing each other of trying to do something that's not really happening. And I want our listening audience to take a look at an organization that's trying to do something that many of our organizations are not doing. People on the sideline claiming that they're involved with the educational system and complaining about the educational system. But when you take a look at what they're actually doing, what do we have?
So if you need all these organizations, Dr. Frazier, why even have a school board in the school district?
Because it takes more than a village.
Let me ask you this. Dustin Daniels, the director of the group, said to the Post and Corey quote, meeting the candidates and the endorsees, they passed the eye test, they passed the credentials test, they passed the passion test. But do you, Dr. Frazier, pass the integrity test?
Yes, definitely. My vote is not for sale. That's why.
Is your soul for sale?
I can tell you emphatically no.
Okay.
And I can leave it right there.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody who's a endorsee for the Coalition for Kids have to hire a relationship with an organization who's poised to spend roughly $300,000 reportedly to get you elected, haven't you all lost?
I don't know that that's true. And I need to tell you, and I need to tell the public, $300,000 was not spent on trying to get me elected. I know nothing about $300,000 being spent. And I think that much of the information that we get, Quintin, and we put out there, that we need to do our homework and make sure that we have accurate information when we put it out there. No one is buying my vote. Not the Democrats, not the Republicans, no organization. I'm here because I have a passion for children, and my past certainly substantiates how I stand on the issues.
But Helen, when I look at all of these endorsees' platforms, including yours, it's all the same. Fight to ensure every child gets a quality education, prioritize accountability by paying high-performing teachers and principals, expanding high-performing school options to the parents aren't stuck sending their child to failing schools, and hiring a new superintendent. This is all the same.
Well, what do you see as your priorities?
What are your priorities? Can you separate your priorities from this Coalition for Kids priorities?
Well, the Coalition for Kids, the priorities should be the same for everyone in this community. Don't you want the same thing? And what I'm trying to say, Quintin, is that we all want the same thing. How we go about doing that can vary from organization. And when we start pointing fingers and saying this is the right way or this is the wrong way, there is just one way, and that is the way that's going to make a difference in the lives of our children, who we can expect to move forward and make this a better country for all.
But let me ask you this, hiring a new permanent, obviously competent superintendent, so do you support keeping on Dr. Donald Kennedy?
I support the leadership that we have at this time, but the process includes looking for the right person for the job.
Why not wait until after the new school board gets elected?
Well, Quintin, there are procedures in place, and we have talked about it as a board. We need to start the process. When you have probably 9 people coming aboard, there's a learning curve. It took 2 years for me to even figure out all of the ramifications of being a board member. Do we have that kind of time? For 9 people, maybe 7 people. I'm thinking it's going to be 7, maybe 8. Who knows at this time? We'll have to wait until the election. But we have people, some of them know nothing about what's going on in the district except that they want to make a change. So we can't just wait until a new group of people learn. The process has to start somewhere. And so the process has started. We're making inroads into starting that process. Mr. Kennedy will probably apply for the position just as everyone else.
Right.
And we'll move forward and see what happens. Whoever we decide that will be the leader for this district will be decided by that new and old board.
Old new board. So let me ask you this. How did you make change in the school board within the school district without the endorsement of the Coalition for Kids?
I have made tremendous progress as an individual. I retired from the Charleston County School District after being in the system for 20 years. When no one was talking about parental involvement, if you can remember the old Archer building, that was the first parenting center that we had in the district. Most of the positions that I had included working in about 10 different schools. Many of those schools were our alternative programs where we were just putting children out just because of minor behavior problems. So that I've been around for the past 20 years. Not only that, I did not give up. I came out of the system, went on to serve on the constituent board in my district, and now at the board level. And I would take a look at my credentials and compare it to anyone that's running for the school board. And you tell me, Quintin, what do you think about Helen Frazier being a member of the team that's going to move our next generation of children forward. Tell me your opinion.
We'll let the voters decide. Dr. Helen Davis-Frazier, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
And it's always a pleasure, Quintin. You always ask the hard questions, but that's why we call it Quintin's Close-Up.
Thank you.
Blessings to you.
Likewise.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I need you to join my team.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm a journalist, Mr. Frazier.
Listen, we need journalists too.
Well, I'm independent. I gotta be as fair and balanced. I can't join the team.
You are in a good position to spread the word.
Oh, do this interview.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you join.
Yes.
I don't tell you to move out of your comfort level. I'm just saying let's team and let's do it together.
No, I can't.
Do it in your venue.
No.
Yes, you can.
But thank you.
Thank you.